with absorption. So in the ingested food, mainly it may be like 1.5 liters of fluid, ingested fluid, and in GI secretions it may be like 7 liters the GI secretions will be. So total, if you take this ingested fluid and GI secretions, we get 8 to 9 liters. So in this 8 to 9 liters, 1.5 liter is absorbed in the small intestine and 1.5 liters is passed by ileocecal valve into colon. Means it is excreted out. So 1.5 liter is absorbed inside and 1.5 liters is excreted out of the total 8 to 9 liters. So the absorbed part, you can see it's like quite higher, 1.5 liters. So stomach is actually having a poor absorptive area of gastrointestinal system because no villi, and only highly lipid soluble substances like alcohol and some drugs like aspirin can be absorbed only in small quantities in the stomach. So remember, aspirin, alcohol can be absorbed in the stomach. And coming to folds of Kerckring, villi, microvilli. What are this Kerckring? I'll show you later in the diagram. So this Kerckring is also called as valvulae convergence, which is present in small intestine mucosa. So you can understand either in digestion or either in absorption of carbohydrates, our small intestine is like a king or queen because it is playing a major role either in absorption, also in digestion. So you can see this villi, microvilli, Kerckring, all this increase the mucosal absorptive area nearly like 1000-fold. So on each villus, again on villus we have the brush border like with 1000 microvilli which protrude into intestinal chyme. So as they are protruding into the chyme, they can easily take out the nutrients. So this brush border mainly, it increases the surface area. So we also have a central lacteal for absorption into lymph. So even the nutrients also go into lymph, and pinocytic vesicles are present. Small amount of substances are vessels, not vessels. Small amount of substances are absorbed by pinocytosis. So pinocytosis process, vessels are formed and absorbed. So all this process are going on for the absorption directly, either from the villi it can absorb, or by pinocytosis they form small vessels and they'll get absorbed inside the cell. And actin is present for contraction of microvilli continuously, for the movement of interstitial fluid. To push or to movement of interstitial fluid, actin is also present for microvilli. If they'll move, more absorption will be there. So small intestine absorption, mainly it absorbs carbs, fat, that is carbohydrates, fats, amino acids, ions, different kinds of ions like about 50 to 100 grams per day, or even it will take more. It has more capacity, but normal, they're saying about normal healthy person, he may take about this much of food. And 7.8 liters of water, even it can take 20 liters of water, its capacity is very high, but normally in a general person we are talking about this. So now let us see large intestine. So always we are talking about small intestine, what about our large intestine? Large intestine can absorb more water and ions also, but only few nutrients. So that's why we'll not take large intestine that much, because only water and ions are absorbed here. Next, coming to isoosmotic absorption of water. So what is this isoosmotic absorption? Let us see. Water is absorbed into intestine mainly by normal diffusion pattern, or reverse also takes place. Water is absorbed into the intestine by diffusion, means into the intestine means from the lumen, the food you have eaten is coming into the lumen. From the lumen it is taken into intestine. From the intestine cells it is going into the capillaries or blood vessels around it, right? Reverse may also takes place, means from the blood vessels also sometime the water may come out in the cases where there is hyperosmotic solution which is reaching the duodenum from the stomach. Sometimes in the stomach there may be some hard food without any water, then only if that hard solution is coming even to the duodenum, then what the capillaries of the duodenum do is they immediately transfer the water according to the gradient. As the water is less in now in the lumen, they try to just shift the water from the capillary side into the gastric cells and into the lumen. So this is how the reverse also can take place. Now let us see absorption of ions, how different kinds of ions get absorbed into our intestine. So sodium is absorbed actively by intestinal membrane. If a person, according to the person how much he eats, normal values here are here, like if a person eats 5 to 8 grams of sodium per day and 20 to 30 grams of sodium is secreted in intestine. So to prevent the sodium in fecus, the intestine absorbs like 25 to 35 grams of sodium. So sodium also is important for absorbing the sugars and amino acids along with it. and sodium and chloride both come inside the cell in the presence of ATPase, so they are active transport. And sodium is also co-transported by different sodium glucose co-transport, sodium amino acid co-transport, sodium hydrogen exchanger. So now by osmosis, of course, if sodium comes, we know either by paracellular and transcellular path, water also enters the cell finally to after entering into the cell, finally they'll go into the blood. So now even the blood volume also will increase because water will also go into it. So finally to circulating blood of villus. So we will see this process in a diagram to understand it more clearly. So this is that beautiful diagram. So here you can see actually what happens. Sodium comes inside the cell by means of many co-transport along with amino acids or along with glucose, and with exchange with hydrogen ion. As you can see, sodium comes inside, hydrogen ions go outside, and chlorine also comes inside with an exchange. As chlorine comes inside, bicarbonate goes outside. So where it goes into the intestinal lumen. So this is the lumen side and this is an interstitial fluid side of a cell. So this is a lumen side, this is a interstitial fluid side. So and on the interstitial fluid side you can see by sodium potassium pump the sodium goes out. As this is coming inside, at the same way it is also going outside and potassium is coming in. So some intracellular sodium may decrease because of this sodium potassium pump. So of course, as the sodium is coming, water is also coming into the cell, but it is coming paracellularly, not transcellularly. Transcellularly means it is coming within the cell. So these are all co-transporters are they are coming the transcellular pathway, but this water is coming in a paracellular pathway. So this is a diagram to get a clear understanding. Now let us start about aldosterone. So aldosterone, it mainly increases the sodium absorption into the cell. Adrenal cortex releases when the person is dehydrated. When you are dehydrated, no water in your body, then immediately our adrenal cortex is activated. It releases aldosterone. So what it does? Aldosterone increases sodium absorption, in turn causes secondary increase in absorption of chlorine, water, some other substances. So aldosterone is important in colon because it doesn't allow loss of sodium chloride in fecus and also only little water loss. So because of this, a person will get again hydrated, or he will not again will not undergo any shock or like that. So chlorine absorption in small intestine. So why chlorine is absorbed? So chlorine absorption is very rapid and occurs by diffusion. That is, absorption of sodium by epithelium creates electronegativity in the chyme. So because of this, the electropositivity in the paracellular space between the epithelial cells leads to chlorine also absorbed across the brush border of ileum and large intestine by brush border chlorine bicarbonate exchanges. Just now we have seen the diagram. So chlorine exits the cell on the basolateral membrane by chlorine channels. So you can see as the chlorine is entering, even it is also exiting out in the basolateral membrane, you can see, because of its concentration gradient. So now let us see the absorption of bicarbonate in duodenum and jejunum. So how bicarbonate absorbs in the duodenum and jejunum. So bicarbonate is secreted mainly by bile and pancreas. So often it should be reabsorbed back, because if more it is secreted, then more will be accumulated in the lumen. So of course it should be also reabsorbed back. So it's reabsorbed indirectly when sodium is absorbed. H plus is released. It's combined with bicarbonate to form carbonic acid. So this carbonic acid further divides into water and carbon dioxide. So this water remains as chyme, whereas carbon dioxide is expired by lungs. So this process leads to active absorption of bicarbonate ions. The same occurs even in the tubules of kidneys. So this is the indirect process. So because of this, all process as water is coming, this is how the bicarbonate comes into the cell by an indirect process in duodenum and jejunum. Now let us see the secretion of bicarbonate and absorption of chlorine in the ileum and large intestine. So ileum and large intestine secrete bicarbonate in exchange for chlorine ions. Means bicarbonate is coming out, means chlorine is getting in. So which is important to provide alkaline bicarbonate ion which neutralize acid products which are found by bacteria in large intestine. So to neutralize them, the bicarbonate is released. Active absorption of calcium, iron, potassium, magnesium, phosphate. Calcium actively absorbed in blood, especially in duodenum, and parathyroid, vitamin D. These are the factors which control the calcium absorption mainly. We will see this in our endocrine physiology. So parathyroid mainly activates the vitamin D, which in turn leads to increase in calcium absorption. So iron is also absorbed actively from the small intestine. Potassium, magnesium, phosphate, different ions are actively absorbed by intestinal mucosa, and even monovalent ions are absorbed with ease and great quantities. And bivalent ions normally absorbed in only small amounts. Example, maximum absorption of calcium is like only 1/50 as great as normal absorption of sodium because it's a bivalent ion. So fortunately, small quantities of bivalent ions are normally required by daily body. So it's fortunate for us so that we don't need to worry about that process. Now let us see the carbohydrates mainly absorbed as monosaccharides. We discussed it already. The most abundant absorbed monosaccharides are glucose. 80% of carbohydrate calories are absorbed in the form of glucose. 20% of absorbed monosaccharides are composed of galactose. Galactose is coming from the milk, whereas fructose is from cane sugar. So all monosaccharides are absorbed by secondary active transport. Very important. All monosaccharides by secondary active transport. So glucose is transported by sodium co-transport, and another type of active transport is also useful for sodium transport by basolateral membrane of intestine into the interstitial fluid. So because of this, the sodium is decreased in the epithelial cells. The same process here, as the sodium is coming inside, as it is going on the basolateral side, the amount of sodium which is present inside the cell will now decrease. So decreased sodium in the cell will cause sodium from the intestine lumen to move by the breast border of epithelium cell to the interior by process of secondary active transport. So you can see here the secondary active transport. As the sodium concentration is decreasing because of sodium potassium pump, more sodium start coming inside the cell. So because of decreased sodium inside the cell, sodium and glucose are dragged into the cell from basolateral membrane to paracellular space and from there into the blood. So finally they'll reach the blood, and of course they'll give us the energy. Now let us see the absorption of other monosaccharides. Only we are talking about glucose, sodium all the time. What about others? So galactose is also following the same path as glucose, whereas fructose is by facilitated diffusion by intestinal epithelium and not coupled with sodium transport. As we seen, glucose and galactose are coupled with sodium, but facilitated diffusion is independent. It will travel its alone. Of course not independent, it will use some protein. It is facilitating the diffusion but not a sodium transport. So fructose become phosphorylated after entering cell and converted to glucose, and finally it is transported in the form of glucose rest of the way into the blood. So its overall transport is like just about half of glucose or galactose. As it's going by facilitated diffusion, only some amount will go into the cell. So this is how we have completed our digestion and absorption of carbohydrates. Let us see the diagrams and end up the session. So here we can see in mouth we have an enzyme alpha amylase ptyalin. It's like revision from parotid glands. Act on starch to form maltose and glucose up to like 3 to 9 polymers. And in esophagus we have nothing, right? In stomach we have enzyme alpha amylase ptyalin, parotid glands. Action digestion continues up to 1 hour. 30 to 40% starch are converted to maltose and glucose. We already know. As acid comes, it inactivates. Next, coming to small intestine, we have again alpha amylase, especially pancreatic, right? 50 to 80% almost it is converted to maltose and glucose here before passing to duodenum and upper jejunum. So finally coming to our large intestine, it's a waste part. I think there's nothing there. So in small intestine only we are having another enzyme, or lactase, sucrase, maltase, already we discussed, right? So the action already we discussed it. So the final product is glucose, which is ready for absorption. So this diagram you can check out just for revision. Already we discussed everything. So all comes finally into intestine, into the GI epithelial cell, finally going into the portal vein. Very important. From the portal vein it will go into the liver. From the liver it will go into the systemic circulation, supplying all this blood. So you can see here the final products of carbohydrate digestion. 80% glucose, 10% fructose, 10% galactose. Glucose is a major one. And you can see that valvulae, canvitans, which you can see them, they're like big microvilli, and from you can see the villi, useful for the food movement. And in a villi you can see a lacteal, central lacteal, the blood capillaries around it, the vein, artery, and you can see the basement membrane of it having a brush border, arteriole inside, capillaries, central lacteal, venules. And here again you can see the brush border, pinocytic vesicles we discussed already, and endoplasmic reticulum, mitochondria. So this diagram we discuss So that's it. By this we completed the digestion and absorption of carbohydrates.